Sorry for those technical difficulties. But as I was saying, in April, we examined the Dining Out NYC program and heard extensive feedback on the implementation of Local Law 121 of 2023. Our hearing illuminated several problems with the program's implementation, including application backlogs, rigid clearance requirements, and accessibility challenges for small restaurants. Overall, the committees hope to receive an update on how DOT has addressed and responded to the issues we raised earlier in the year, and to hear other lessons DOT has learned during the first season of Dining Out NYC. Several of today's bills, which my co-chair spoke about a moment ago, also touch upon these issues and directly respond to the testimony that we received. In addition, we will hear 4 bills unrelated to outdoor dining that reflect the wide spectrum of responsibilities our city must balance to ensure safety, fairness, and quality of life for all New Yorkers. These include Intro 1142, sponsored by Minority Leader Ariola, which would require the Department of Transportation to install child with autism warning plaques at the request of a parent or guardian. Intro 1320, sponsored by Councilmember Felice, which would impose civil penalties on property owners who failed to repair sidewalk defects within required timeframes. Introduction 1423, sponsored by Councilmember Stevens, which would require DOT to publish a full inventory of all city-owned retaining walls under its jurisdiction. And Introduction 1426, sponsored by Councilmember Botcher, strengthening news rack maintenance requirements and enforcement. I want to thank the Department of Transportation for joining us today, as well as the business associations, disability advocates, worker advocates, community boards, and residents who are here to provide testimony. Your input is essential to ensuring that our legislation is informed, practical, and responsive to the lived experiences of all New Yorkers. Before we begin, I would like to thank my staff, Julian Martin, my Deputy Chief of Staff, and Renee Taylor, my Chief of Staff, and the committee staff, Mark Chen, Senior Legislative Counsel, Theodore Miller, Legislative Counsel, Kevin Katowski, Senior Policy Analyst, John Basile, Senior Policy Analyst, Nell Compton, Legislative Intern, and Adrian Drapal, Principal Financial Analyst, for their hard work at this hearing. In addition, I want to acknowledge that this is the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure's last hearing for this session, and I'm very proud of the work we have done, from examining the city's infrastructure projects through the lens of equity to ensuring our city's public infrastructure and spaces are sustainable for the future, to addressing issues with our subway and bus systems, to implementing street safety measures. We have done meaningful, impactful work. We have passed a number of important pieces of legislation, including legislation to improve truck parking and truck routes, advancing protections for hire vehicles and taxi workers, improving street safety, implementing efficient EV charging infrastructure, expanding bus lanes, and more efficiently tracking capital projects and the streets plan. Thank you to all of the staff, my colleagues, members of the public, and advocates, as this work would not be possible without you. I look forward to next session's work and wish you all a happy holiday. Next, we will hear from Councilmember Ressler, who will speak on his bill.
Thank you so much to both chairs, Brooke Powers and Menon, and I especially want to thank Chair Menon for her leadership on this issue. We've spoken about outdoor dining many times, and I've really appreciated her partnership and commitment to trying to help address some of the failures in the outdoor dining program. In just 5 days, roadway dining structures across the city of New York will disappear. Instead of New Yorkers safely enjoying a bite to eat outside, we will have thousands of parked cars, or SUVs, or trucks lining our streets. Who knows how many restaurants will manage to come back in April after the costly disassembly and storage fees this season. New Yorkers have been clamoring for outdoor, year-round open dining since the day this program ended. It was one of the only positive things that happened amid a horrific pandemic that devastated our city. Open dining gave us opportunities to gather, to build community, to support local businesses and their workforces. There's just no reason that we shouldn't allow outdoor dining to continue to flourish. Streamlining and formalizing the open dining program was absolutely necessary. but we've made it too difficult for restaurants to participate. The proof is in the numbers. At the height of the pandemic, there were 8,000 restaurants participating in outdoor dining. Today, 1,400 have roadway dining. That's an 80% decline. An 80% decline. 4 out of 5 restaurants that you used to be able to go out and enjoy eating a burger outside, gone. We absolutely need to keep rules in place for high standards, for cleanliness, and to help avoid rats, for sure. And we need to address snow removal and safety concerns as we return to a year-round program. But we can achieve both with clear standards and enforcement, and we can absolutely have a successful year-round outdoor dining program. We're also hearing Intro 1446, which will require DOT to establish in-person application locations and allow restaurants to save their progress on the application and be able to return at a later date. This is an extensive application process, frankly too extensive, with lots of information required, and filling the application out itself should not be an arduous burden. I just want to say, outdoor dining had been a great success. The new iteration of this program is failing our city. We can do better. We must do better. We need to bring back year-round outdoor dining. We need to streamline the process to apply. We need to make it easier for more establishments to be able to participate. We need to allow, in reasonable ways, restaurants to expand their footprint when adjacent storefronts allow for it. These are all reasonable and achievable goals that we can and should make happen. I'm grateful to Sarah Swain and Rachel Cordero for their help and partnership with us in drafting this, and my Chief of Staff, Molly Haley. We've worked closely with the Hospitality Alliance, Open Plans New York, Transportation Alternatives, and many small business owners, restaurant owners across my district who've reached out to share their feedback and advocate for changes. I'm grateful for all of their help and input in putting forward this legislative package, and I'm grateful to our chairs for the opportunity to hear these bills. Look forward to testimony from DOT.
Thank you. And we've also been joined by Majority Leader Farias. Next, we will hear from Minority Leader Ariola.
You're unmuted, Minority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank Chair Brooks Powers, who is also a co-sponsor on this bill, as well as the Speaker's Office for hearing this very important piece of legislation. Intro 1142 was an idea first brought to my attention by parents of special needs children and will give some of the most vulnerable New Yorkers an additional level of much needed safety on our streets. By allowing parents or legal guardians to request signage warning motorists that a child with autism lives nearby, we give drivers an extra cue to slow down, stay alert, and exercise a little more care on residential roadways. This will no doubt help to keep our children safe and can prevent an otherwise avoidable tragedy in the future. If we can make our neighborhoods even a little safer for our children with autism, then this is a step worth taking. Together, we will create a better, safer New York City for everyone. In closing, I'd like to thank my multi-talented Chief of Staff, Phyllis Cirillo, who worked diligently with the City Council Legislative Division to draft this bill. Chairs, thank you for the time.
Thank you for that. I will. Thank you for that. Next, I'll pass it over to Chair Menon.
Okay, thank you so much. And before we begin, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Natalie Meltzer, counsel to this committee. So we will now call on representatives of the administration to testify. We are going to be hearing testimony today from Commissioner Ydanis Rodriguez, from First Deputy Commissioner Margaret Forgione, from Executive Deputy Commissioner Paul Ochaya, and from Associate Deputy Commissioner for Cityscape and Franchises, Michelle Craven. So I'm going to turn it over to committee counsel to do the affirmation.
Do affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions.
Here back on 250 Broadway, where I spent 12 years. And it's a great honor to be still, serving with so many great, talented colleagues who at some point we also served together. Good morning, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I'm Danis Rodriguez, Commissioner of the New York City Departments of Transportation. With me today are Margaret Forjon, First Deputy Commissioner, Polo Choa, Second Deputy Commissioner, and Michelle Graven, Associate Deputy Commissioner for Cityscape, Scape, and Franchises. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of Mayor Eric Adams and the administration's work on New York City outdoor dining program. First, I want to say thank you to Loris Antonelli and Penny Ringo, who are in charge of the dining out program. They have done a great job to put together the best, the largest and the best dining out program that we have in the nation, and the one that we only compete globally only with Paris. I also want to say thank you to my daughter Yarisa Rodriguez, who is here with me, back from college. She has spent a lot of time here with me, visiting, and she got to meet all kinds of members from 2017 to 21. She also served as an intern for Get Brewer, so it's nice also to have her with me. Roadway and sidewalk dining grew in popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic and continue to provide New Yorkers with new opportunities to enjoy and appreciate dining outdoors. Not only was outdoor dining a critical lifeline to revitalize our economy when indoor dining was prohibited, but it reaffirmed the vibrancy of our street. Overseeing one of the most complex urban transportation networks in the world, the most density city that we have in the whole nation. New York State is made by 54,000 square miles, and New York City only has 350. And we had to provide space to everything, including to our dining out. This includes more than 6,300 miles of streets and highways, and over 12,000 miles of sidewalk. We are proud of the creative work of our outdoor dining team has done, which expand on our mission to create public space that strengthen and strengthen our communities across the 5 boroughs. Our permanent program is built around insights from the pre-pandemic Departments of Consumers and Worker Protections Sidewalk Cafe program, as well as a temporary open restaurants program. The pre-pandemic regulations were confusing, costly, and restrictive, resulting in only 1,200 sidewalk, most of them in the middle class and wealthy community, downtown Manhattan, downtown Brooklyn, and Long Island City. It is now when the dining out is across all communities. The temporary open restaurant program during the COVID-19 pandemic introduced an urgent necessity to balance public health guidance with saving the city's beloved restaurant industry. By reimagining the use of public space, the temporary program had between 6,000 to 8,000 restaurants participating and saved 100,000 jobs. But everyone knows New Yorkers were creative, and we built in the sidewalk, in the roadway. It was not following code. It was nothing related to following the safety. It was a way of how we survived during COVID. But by learning from these two programs, we are making Dining Out NYC an equitable and exclusive program while simultaneously maintaining quality life for local residents, something that all community spoke loud and clear. Today's Permanent Dining Out NYC program, created in partnership with the City Council in Local Law 121 of 2023, is the largest outdoor dining program in the country and second only to Paris globally. As the first season of roadway dining comes to a close at the end of the month, we are pleased to share the tremendous work our team has done to reimagine our public space. And I want to especially thank the council for being a great partners putting this program together. First, we strive to make participation as accessible and streamlined as possible. Within our first season, which began only on April 1st this year, 2025, over 3,000 restaurants were allowed to operate, Essentially, all applicants were able to operate through conditional approvals. Working in partnership with the council, we achieved this by reducing fees from the pre-pandemic sidewalk cafe programs and having rates vary by location and setup size. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you. Simultaneously, a zoning test amendments also removed the pre-pandemic program's numerous geographic restrictions, allowing restaurants to participate in areas of the city where outdoor dining was previously not allowed. This level of retention from the temporary program exceeded the rate of retention from the program in Paris. While Local Law 121 of 2023 provides for a robust application review process to incorporate public feedback from local communities, DOT also sought to balance the council's desire for ample community feedback with helping restaurants, most of which are small businesses, get up and running quickly. That's why that's why we cut red tapes by granting conditional application approvals to all roadways and sidewalk dining applicants after completion of the application's mandatory public comment period established by the law of the council. This expedited the process of ensuring the vast majority of applicants were able to operate when the first outdoor dining season under the new rules began early this year. DOT has also prioritized addressing the quality of life concerns that had been raised during the temporary program. And we have worked within the dining out New York City law to be incredibly responsive to the complaints we receive and enforce when necessary. Our highway inspection and quality assurance, HIQA, units remove over 200 illegal enclosures, and with the new requirements of the program, higher quality materials for setups, weekly cleaning requirements, and water-filled barriers instead of sand-filled barriers, we now receive far fewer 311 complaints. In 2025, our inspections units issued nearly 3,500 summonses, 85% of which were for unlicensed activity. I'm sure when you walk around your own neighborhood or dining out at your favorite establishment, you can see the dramatic improvement to the outdoor dining experience. Our team does not stop working once we approve an application or issue a license. Our outdoor dining team continues to engage with businesses after application approvals and offers ongoing assistance throughout the implementation season. We meet businesses where they are by offering individual on-site assistance in the language of their preference to measures and draw site plans without the need for a costly third-party architecture fee, which alleviates the financial burden from small businesses. We have seen this measure become incredibly helpful with increasing our outdoor borough participations. Our team continues communication with businesses by sharing important news related to the program, new information, and extreme weather updated. We also continuously update the Dining Out NYC website to share helpful resources for participants and include step-by-step guidance. This includes the marketplace. We serve as a directory of companies that sell or rent outdoor dining setups and services. We are proud that Dining Out NYC is now a permanent program serving millions of New Yorkers and visitors and increasing jobs across the 5 boroughs. We are thrilled to see the program grow significantly larger than the pre-pandemic program, and we continue to receive new applications daily. As our first ever season comes to the end, We look forward to listening to the interests of restaurants and working with the council and other stakeholders to build upon the lessons learned and make outdoor dining more accessible, safe, inviting for many years to come. On legislation, first, Intro 1142, sponsored by Councilmember Ariola. This bill will require DOT to install at the request of a child parent or legal guardian warning signs with plaques to warn a motorist of the presence of a child with autism. Being an attentive and safer driver, cyclist, or pedestrians is extremely important for everyone sharing the street in any neighborhood. Guided by the Federal Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, we use signals carefully, since too many signs can start to distract drivers from observance of other needed requirements. It's important to acknowledge some concerns we have with research showing that these type of signs don't make a street safer. And yes, as someone that have a family members who is a child autism, I can tell you that no one will be more committed than me to be sure that all New Yorkers, especially those with special needs, get the sign that they need to be protected. But also, it's been demonstrated that when we have too many signs, it may become visual clutter and increase chances that drivers will ignore signs with critical information. We will also want to note that the system proposed will require substantial new staffing and funding. We are happy to have further discussion with the council about this bill in our rigorous process for street safety design interventions. On Intro 1320, sponsored by Councilmember Felix, this bill will create a maximum penalty of $250 if a property owners fail to timely repair sidewalks abutting their property as directed by DOT. It also would subject the owners to the same maximum penalties if the owners knew or should have known that the defect was the immediate danger to the public. For 1 to 3 family properties, if a sidewalk is damaged or in poor condition already, DOT will issue a violation to the property owner if the defects are not due to the city-owned trees. If the property owner does not make the repairs, then the city may make the repair and bill the property owner, except for the city-owned tree root portion or repairs. As written, this bill may become a burden to a 1-3 family property owners and add to the existing affordability issue facing New Yorkers. Where we do see this policy having some potential value is targeting those sidewalks abutting 4+ family building or commercial properties, as the city does not repair these properties. For context, the work to repair flags can be severe, tens of thousands of dollars for larger properties, and a penalty should be larger enough to incentivize timely repair of these sidewalks. We look forward to further discussion with the council to craft a thoughtful policy and bill. On Intro 1421, sponsored by Councilmember Lincoln Restler, this bill will expand the city outdoor dining program by allowing grocery stores to apply for the sidewalk cafe license, removing seasonal restriction on roadway cafe operation, and providing the option to expand frontage for certain cafes upon consent. This bill will also streamline the review process for restaurants applying to operate a sidewalk or roadway cafe by restricting community boards for requiring applicants to supply additional materials. We are particularly interested in identifying ways to increase program participation and remove barriers to access. Although we haven't here this as an issue, any business that has a food service establishment permit from the Department of Health can already participate in our program. And we have several grocery stores, delis, and bodegas that fall into this category. Further, any establishment with the New York State Department of Agricultural license is eligible to apply for a full service establishment permit and is then eligible to participate in our program. We have a few ideas already to help streamline the application process and are eager to discuss improvements that can be made in the law to streamline and quicken the application process. As we look forward to the end of the first full permanent dining out season, DOT will continue to coordinate closely with the fire departments in the review of applications and effort to ensure our emergency responders have the clearance they need on our streets. With roadways set to go down for the winter this coming weekend, we will also use this break to look critically at setup that may need adjustments based on feedback from our partner agency. We are happy to have more discussion with the council and stakeholders about adapting our program processes. Next, on Intro 1423, sponsored by Councilmember Stevens, which will require DOT to post an annual inventory of all city-owned retaining walls on the DOT jurisdiction, including the location of each retaining wall, as well as the date when the maintenance of inspection was last performed. In accordance with the New York City Department of Building regulation, DOT already inspects its inventory of over 638 retaining walls every 5 years, and if deficiencies are found, then repair actions are taken. DOT look forward to working with the council on the legislation. Next, on Intro 1426, sponsored by Councilmember Butcher, this bill will require newsrack owners to provide email addresses to DOT when registering and permit DOT to communicate with them electronically. It will also expand DOT ability to seize news racks that are in violation of the regulations governing news racks if owners fail to correct their violation. While news racks provide an important service for the distribution of newspapers or other printing materials, unsightly news racks can be a visual blight on neighborhoods. When news racks are not taken care of, they may have the potential to cause safety hazards, attract graffiti, or become receptacles for trash and home for burning. This bill gives DOT better ability to regulate news racks and improve quality of life in the public realm. We look forward to working with the council on a bill that balances these concerns with the important service news racks provide. Next, on Intro 1444, sponsored by Councilmember Powers, this bill will limit any clear path requirements for pedestrians' path in front of sidewalk cafe to no more than 8 feet in width. With the sidewalk space becoming more competitive than ever, we need to make sure that sidewalk still remains a safe place for New Yorkers to walk, use a wheelchair, or push a stroller or shopping cart. Our planners must ensure sufficient clear path requirements for sidewalks to meet various needs, along with our various programs installing bike racks, city bike stations, bus shelters, and other street furniture. It is also imperative to maintain sufficient space for pedestrians' access and people with disability. Currently, there are 3 tiers of clear path in the Dining Out NYC program based on DOT's innovative pedestrians mobility plan. 12 feet on global corridors, 10 feet on regional corridors, and 8 feet on all other streets. The global and regional corridors exist largely in the central business districts in Manhattan, the most heavily foot trafficked part of the city. We are thrilled with the significant interest in expanding the program, but we are also worried of creating congestions and compromising the accessibility needs for New Yorkers in the busy section of the city. The outcome we must avoid is people resorting to walking into a traffic lane to get by. We are happy to discuss our current clear path requirements and see what adjustment can be made to support dining out NYC while still maintaining our commitment to making our pedestrian spaces safe and accessible for all. Next, on Intro 1446, sponsored by Councilmember Restrepo, this bill will require DOT to issue and receive application to operate a sidewalk cafe and roadway cafe online at a physical location accessible to the public. This bill will also allow applicants to save partially fill out online applications in order to complete the application at the later date. In partnership with our sister agency, we already offer robust resources to support businesses throughout the application process. Applicants can receive free service from the Departments of Small Business Services, borough locations, and may submit applications in person at these locations. We also assist with applications preparation, both in person and virtually, based on applicant preference. We are continuously exploring how to improve our online application portal, including the function to save in progress applications, and look forward to continue the ongoing work on enhancing our application process. Applicants can currently apply online or in person. We look forward to working with the sponsor of this bill. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Council for the opportunity to testify before you today. We will now be happy to answer any questions. Para mí es un honor venir a testificar sobre el programa de Dining Out, un programa que mantiene a la ciudad con el programa más grande y el mejor de la nación y uno de los dos mejores del mundo, solamente comparándonos con París, proveyéndonos espacio en la carretera y en las aceras para que los dueños de negocios puedan poner mesas y sillas para servir su comida seguro a sus clientes. Gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner. We could just hop right into it. I'm going to start with questions around outdoor dining first, regarding program participation and staffing. Specifically, what actions has DOT undertaken since our last hearing to address our concerns about application backlogs, the application process, and the burdensome clearance requirements, and the seasonality of the program?
Yeah, I will start in the first Deputy Commissioner. She will also ensure that she will add also other details. Look, we appreciate the support of the council, and we all should be proud. This is only the first year, and we know that we operating with the constraint of the law passed by the council. So there's a time frame that we have to follow when it came to the period of time that, the application must go through a community board when they came back to us. But I can say that we appreciate the administration providing the resources that we need, allow for us to hire additional numbers of staff from the last hearing that we have. And we can say that we are on track when it comes to all the application that is coming in front of us. In most cases, the waiting is not based about the lack of staff, it's based about all the information that the owner must provide related to insurance and other details.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to the council for the question. So this has been our first full year of dining out. We have become fully staffed up with a very well-qualified and aggressive staff. We have about 14 different languages among the staff members that we have in our unit. Those folks have gone out very proactively and offered their services to all of the restaurants, whether it's on site or in remote sessions, which many people have taken us up on, in order to try to make the application process a little bit more smooth. This year we had about 4,000 applications, and at the height of the program, we had about 3,000 in operation. Many of those were operating in our attempt to make sure the program didn't miss a beat. They were operating under conditional approvals, and those restaurants will complete their process now over the winter and then continue to operate into next year. We can get into any aspects of those details that you like. I don't know if there's an area you want to focus on.
Sure. First, I'd like to also acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Nycc, and just kind of dig in deeper into the applications, as you mentioned, that have been approved versus in operation. Of the conditional roadway approvals granted between February and April 2025, what percentage have converted to fully licensed setups?
Right, so about 400 have completed the process and are fully licensed. So the remainder of those, the vast majority of them need to complete their process, which requires payment. Michelle Craven will elaborate a little bit further on those aspects of it, but we're urging them to complete their process so they enter the new year with everything in order. So, Michelle.
So, oh, go ahead.
I'll just jump in to say, to complete the conditional approval. So to get a conditional approval, you go through the complete public review process. We review the site plan, it goes to the community board, public hearing, if necessary, the council, if necessary, for sidewalks. So the only things that are left are the insurance payment, the annual fee, and the signing of the revocable consent agreement. And once we have all of those things, we can execute the agreement and submit it to the comptroller for registration.
So, on average, how many days does it take to transition from conditional approval to operating with full approval?
That varies quite a bit depending on how responsive the applicants are. And as you might imagine, once a restaurant is authorized to operate, they may not be so motivated to move quickly to pay money to the city.
But what have you seen in practice, like in terms of on average for those that are responsive?
So probably a couple of months, if you factor the 30 days for the comptroller plus the time it takes to send the agreement out, get the signatures back, get the insurance, and the security deposit.
Okay, thank you. And I guess some of the common obstacles that prevent businesses from successfully converting sounds like in terms of their participation, but are you seeing any other like hurdles?
In terms of completing the conditional approval to the full approval?
Yes.
No, I think that's the biggest, is just getting through all the paperwork and getting everything done.
I think that as we say, like, we all live that temporary dining out, which many of us know in many places in this city. People build like houses in the sidewalk, in the roadway, no following code, no necessary permit. So I think that when we move together, the council and the administration, and say, let's pass this bill to make it permanent, definitely is a big positive change. Like having close to 4,000 or more than 3,000 restaurant or permits affiliated with restaurant that they are using sidewalk or dining or roadway is big one. We don't have 200 that we used to have before COVID. Now it's having like more than 3,000 of those. In many cases, I can say as first the commissioner say, we have a great team with Lawrence and Penny and the whole team and Michelle that we are processing on time. Any waiting is about some business owner, they decide to apply at the beginning because they were buying time. In many cases, they not necessarily was interested in applying for the permanent one. In other cases, they also had to come back and pay the insurance and all the need. They had to community board. So those pieces is something that we don't control. The piece that we control is a part related to, process the application.
And what you mentioned restaurants, I just want to touch on another question. If a restaurant's application is denied, does DOT provide information to the business on specific changes needed to successfully obtain approval? And if so, how many restaurants have successfully reapplied to the program and obtained approval?
So sometimes we find that a restaurant may have applied in error. For example, if they're applying for roadway, but they're in a bus stop, they won't be eligible. So in certain cases, we respond back to restaurants and we make them aware that for roadway, they may not be able to participate. Maybe they can for sidewalk. We give them that hands-on help. In other cases, they provide us with drawings that aren't always accurate. They may not show proper distances to doorways, to a tree pit. And in that case, what we'll do with them is we'll offer to get on a remote call with them or even come to their restaurant in order to sit down and create a new site plan that is something that we can approve with the proper measurements. So we see a variety, but in many cases, the restaurant owners are very happy with the hands-on expertise that we provide them to get them over the finish line with a proper application.
Now, if businesses haven't applied for permanent yet, why does DOT think that will approve over the winter?
So this past year, they were able to apply or operate under conditional approvals. They do need to complete the process before next year. So our first focus for roadway setups, the season, as we mentioned in testimony, ends this Sunday. Our first focus with those restaurants will be to remind them and ensure that they're no longer in operation come Monday. And then we are quickly, we've already begun this process, but then we're quickly speaking to them about finalizing their application so that they can resume again next year when the dining season starts again.
Now, the recently released outdoor dining annual report states that 264 licenses were issued as of August 16, 2025. It indicated that there were licensing disparities between the boroughs. For example, Staten Island wasn't issued any licenses. Is DOT still noticing disparities between the boroughs? And how is the administration working with communities to ensure that they also have equitable access to the outdoor dining program?
Okay, so at this point, we are now close to about 400. The number that you mentioned earlier in August is closer to 400. We have done quite a bit of outreach in every community, and we have offered to attend meetings with the business improvement districts or community boards or do general outreach. And as we get into the second year of the program and we have the applications under our belt that have either gone through the process or are almost completed, we're going to have some additional time to go out and do more outreach. So we're very open to your input as to effective ways to reach all of the communities. But that's something we're committed to growing the program as much as possible.
And also, I can say that Councilmember De La Rosa and I, we both know, let's say, Inwood well. And we also know that many small business, they decided not to apply because for them it didn't make sense. Like I can tell you that in that area, let's say Ceci Restaurant, La República, many other, Burgos, they just decided that they wanted to use the extra space for tables and chairs during the time of COVID, but it was not because, and I can tell you as someone that interact a lot with that business community, many of them decided that it didn't make sense for them to apply. So I think it's many reasons why we have seen, the numbers that we have today, but I can say having over 3,000 is a big number, it's a big difference from 1,200 that we had before COVID.
Early in the year, the executive plan added nearly $3.8 million for an additional 8 headcount positions to process outdoor dining applications. At our last hearing in April, DOT stated that they have 24 staff, hired several consultants, and have other staff on loan for outdoor dining. What is DOT's current outdoor dining headcount, and how many total staff are currently employed to review and process dining out applications?
We currently have the 24 staff. All those positions have been filled. And as you mentioned, we also have other staff that are trained. So when things are busy, we can have up to 30 staff handling aspects of this program. We also have 10 enforcement staff, inspectors that are out inspecting the setups and following up on any issues out in the field.
And do you feel it's a sufficient headcount?
We do.
And are there any vacancies currently?
There are not.
Okay. So just kind of going back to the timing on these applications. So like what accounts for the slow pace of approvals? There are still thousands of businesses operating with conditional approval and under the transitional framework.
Yeah. again, we go back into, like, in many cases, the long period of time is not based about lack of the headcount that we had to process application. Is the business owner no having the resources probably to pay for the insurance? They also have, if it's a sidewalk, it's the same process. You have the council have the right to do the calling. In those pieces of related to why they waiting so long is based on the law as it was passed, or all the reviewing process. But when it comes to the staff that we have, we are on track, and I can say we are processing the application on time.
Chair, if you like, we can go through the steps for each process, sidewalk and roadway. Becomes a slight bit tedious, but that really explains the nature of the process and how long each step takes. So if you like, I can go through that. Yeah. Okay, so for sidewalks, applicants submit their materials. Once they are completed, that we ensure they're completed properly, within 5 days, we send them on to the borough president's offices, the council member's office, and the community board. Community boards then have 40 days to hold a public hearing and provide recommendations back to us. We may be required to hold a public hearing. We then approve it or approve it with a modification or deny it. Then the council has a 45-day window to call the application to a vote if they choose to do so. Then, if approved, DOT notifies the applicant, and then we start to execute the revocable consent agreement. Once the applicant completes the revocable consent process, again, that's a step that's within their ability to complete quickly or take longer. We file that agreement with the controller, and that's registered within 30 days. And then once that's registered, we issue the license with the copy of the revocable consent. Okay, so this whole process with all of the different review periods can take as long as 6 months, but again, it requires that the applicant keep things moving from their end. And then roadway, I can also go through it. It's a similar process, and again, it takes a number of months.
Thank you. Just pivoting quickly to enforcement, safety, and quality of life. How is outdoor dining enforcement being conducted? Have there been any changes to enforcement by DOT since our last hearing? And how much personal services funding is currently included in fiscal 26 and the out years for inspection and enforcement staffing?
Okay, so in fiscal 25, we conducted 6,000 inspections, and I'll just give you a little taste of the types of things that we were looking at. We were looking at whether or not the setup has permission to be there, first and foremost. We also look at the safety of the setup. We look at ADA compliance. We look at whether or not, as the commissioner mentioned, a larger shed was being built, which is no longer allowed, of course, if all aspects of the setup are in compliance. So we did about 6,000 inspections. We issued about 3,500 summonses. 85% of those were for unlicensed activities, so basically illegal setups. We also received about 5,700 complaints, 311 complaints. We investigated all of these complaints, and we removed 220 non-compliant or abandoned setups, either by our in-house forces or by a contractor. So that's a little quick summary of the enforcement activity to date.
And have there been any instances of vehicle crashes into roadway setups?
No.
I'm just going to ask two brief questions on behalf of Councilmember Nycc. The first one is, what data does the administration have on, has the administration measured the economic impact of the permanent outdoor dining program, both the benefits to restaurants and potential negative effects on neighboring businesses? And when will those findings be shared with the council?
So we did some analysis on converting the streets into rematching the use of public space, as the commissioner likes to say, with an analysis of the Open Streets program. And there were 4 key findings from that program. One was that open streets corridors significantly outperform nearby control corridors on 3 key metrics: sales growth, growth in the number of restaurants and bars, and keeping businesses open. The second was that sales growth at restaurants and bars on open streets corridors significantly outpaced sales growth in the boroughs that the corridors are in. The third was that on open streets corridors, a high percentage of restaurants and bars were able to stay in business during the pandemic than across the rest of the same borough. And for all open streets corridors saw faster growth in the number of new restaurants and bars that opened during the pandemic when compared to the rest of the same borough. And I think we want to revisit that. Right, so we're drawing a parallel, obviously, between the open streets and outdoor dining, but I think we found that it's been pretty successful. And I think it's something we want to look at again in the future after we get through the year and have a chance to kind of settle down and see where we are.
Her second question was, has DOT conducted any analysis in neighborhoods with limited parking availability? What setups has the agency taken to ensure the program does not intentionally harm other local businesses that rely on loading deliveries or parking access?
That's where we cannot get both in life. That's where it, if we want to have a vibrant dining out program, then we had to make decisions about, and especially to those who apply for a roadway, and the roadway is designed by the council as a program to be happening in the street. So there's certain limits that we have. So anyone who owns any restaurant or any establishment, can be a bookstore, can be a small cafe, if they have a license by the Department of any of those persons, they can apply for a dining out permit. But when it came to, if it's a program where someone have a restaurant or cafe and they want to apply in the roadway, definitely they may be that they come with the cost of losing some parking. But that's where we are, as we say, reimagining the use of public space, knowing that the street doesn't belong only to those who have vehicle. It's not only a storage for car. Yeah, other purposes. So I think in many cases, we have seen that some point people will ask or questioning about, bring concern about, I may lose these 2 or 3 parking spots. But then when people see the results and they put in balance, I think that the dining out is a very heavily supported when we did the survey in the past by most New Yorkers. And I think that it come in some cases with losing some parking spots, but it translates into a vibrant community too.
And I hear you. I do think that there needs to be a balance in terms of some of the quality of life dynamics, because when you have outdoor dining in Manhattan and you're in a transit-rich community, obviously the convenience is taking the subway or taking a bus there. But when you live in communities like the one that Councilmember Nycc represents, which is a transit desert, I think that it presents a different dynamic, and the department has to be a bit more visionary when we talk about outdoor dining and how we implement the program or continue to implement the program so that it reaches other communities, recognizing not every community is the same. So I do agree. There are some communities that really it doesn't matter because, and I won't say it doesn't matter because there are people that do drive into the city still and want to pay the congestion pricing and need parking, but there are parking lots as an option too. But in the outer boroughs, what we've seen is largely a lot of even the municipal lots have now become like housing. And so there's less lots to park in and less street parking, but yet there has been an increase in car purchases. And so when we think about that, like how do we align with the quality of life and what that means for all New Yorkers? But moving on to
And Sharon, sorry, I just forgot also to add that in those cases where we have a corridor where a restaurant owners would like to, apply for a dining out permits and there's a competition for the space for parking, we also been creating the truck loading zone so that we create space for everyone. So in our corners, we try to do the best we can to, balance all the need of everyone.
And I think that's it. I think it's about finding the balance and understanding like no one, whether motorists or those who want to have one program over the other, owns all of it. We have to find a way to create that harmony. So I appreciate that. In terms of intro number 1142 is the last question I'll be asking, and then I'll be passing it over to Chair Menon. Regarding the installation of child with autism warning plaques, I just want to first thank Minority Leader Ariola for introducing this as a proud auntie of an autistic um, miracle baby. I think that this is pretty much a simple bill that a lot of communities can benefit from. But just in terms of the data, I'm curious to know, does DOT track crash and injury for children with autism spectrum disorder? And has DOT examined how children with autism spectrum disorder or other people similarly situated interact with the city's traffic infrastructure?
I'm gonna say and something that Margaret will add the other part of this answer. The first thing, as I say, we are happy to have further discussion with the council about this bill. So we are not here to say that we oppose, that we are against it. And we know the motivation, we know the importance to provide, safe signs to all New Yorkers. But I just want again to for the whole body here to know in most bills here, in all bills, our position today is that we are open to continue conversation, exploring, the possibility of this bill.
Thank you, Commissioner. So crash reports that we work with that are generated by NYPD do not have a standardized, box to check or information to provide on whether or not a victim of a crash may have had an autism or other disorder. Sometimes there are notes in these reports, but I would say it's not a systematic way to track it. As the Commissioner said, our primary goal is to make each and every street safe for all users. So if we are aware that there is a specific need on a street, we would like to examine the safety of that street. We think it's a lot more effective to redesign a street than it is to put up a sign. What we have found is that signs can be ignored, especially if there are too many signs. That's something that we have in our federal standards for this sort of thing, to be aware of overabundance of signage that then motorists ignore. So instead, we look to have motorists on each and every street, regardless of who lives there or who is walking there, drive safely and carefully, and we want to reinforce those behaviors with our engineering street redesigns as well.
And what else can be done to help safeguard those individuals? So, like when you talk about redesigning the street, what are some of the tools that DOT has and can use in those instances?
Well, I think that, as we say, again, more than happy to continue conversation with the council that has the bill and the body. But as first Deputy Commissioner say, we are working always 24/7, the team at DOT, to make the streets safer. There's so many New Yorkers in need. There's 1 million New Yorkers with disability. There's other New Yorkers that, that they also have particular need in different blocks. But what we believe is that our job is continue making the streets safer. And we all can be proud that this year we had one of the 2 years with the lowest numbers of traffic deaths in 1910. So by in this particular
Say
bill,
that again. I didn't hear you. What did you say, Commissioner?
well, 2025, we have 18% reduction of traffic death compared to last year. 25 and
I
20,
thank you for the
24.
increase in infrastructure investments, and I think that has contributed.
And 25 is one of the 2 years with the lowest numbers of traffic death since 1910. But in this particular need, as I say, as someone that have a family member who is also autistic, I also know the importance and I know the motivation, but we just do believe that our job has to continue focusing on improving, making our street safety, but more than happy to continue discussing this bill.
Okay, great, thank you. A number of questions before we turn it over to the colleagues. So you had mentioned that there are 400 applications that are fully approved. I just want to make sure that that is that. So at our last hearing, it was 67. So now we're at 400 of 4,000 applicants. So basically only 10% have been fully approved.
That is the correct number, yes.
Okay, I'm concerned about that because when we had the hearing prior, there seemed to be a backlog. And while I appreciate the conditional approval, but for a small business owner, you want to get the full approval, the certainty of the full approval, not the conditional approval. So how do we address that backlog? Have you increased staff? Have you, what measures can the agency take to now move this forward?
Yes, just to clarify, DOT does not have a backlog. We have addressed each and every application that was submitted, and many of them have been advanced well through the process. All of those 3,000 conditional approvals mean that they've all gone and they've had the public hearing. So things have moved along very well from our end. I would, just to be very general, I would characterize it that now a lot of the remaining steps are on the applicants. So that is where we are going to focus very much over the next coming months on those applicants to make sure they complete the process.
And what would you say is the reason for why haven't the applicants, because now you're putting the onus back onto the applicant, and I'm concerned about that, because I guess my overarching concern is that the program is seasonal. I support Councilmember Resser's bill on this, and I'm concerned, and I say this as a former small business owner, restaurant owner myself, is like the idea of the seasonal program. You're asking these businesses to outlay a tremendous amount of money. You're asking these businesses to then store the furniture during the other 6 months, which many restaurants don't have the space to do. They have to then bear the cost of having to warehouse it. So I'm worried that we're putting impediments in place, and that is why some restaurants, and you mentioned, Commissioner, in Inwood, perhaps that is why some restaurants are deciding, due to the high cost of the program in general, and then due to these additional costs of the seasonality, I'm worried that that is a deterrent for them to apply in the first place.
I interact a lot with some of the local business. I can tell you in most cases in England, most business owners who decide not to apply, not to apply, was because they feel that it didn't make sense, that didn't have the need to have all those tables and chairs in the sidewalk. But we want to be, in the same page with this. If you ask me one thing that we should do, let's create a mechanism where the interaction between the business owner will be only with DOT. So if we pass a bill that we avoid it and don't include that they had to go through the community board, they had to go through the controller, that is only between the business owners and the agency, that's what we will cut most of the time. Because the time that we have, the waiting period of time is not based about, we process the application. It's about they having the insurance. They had to go through community board. They had to be waiting for the 40 days. They had to come through the council to be calling or not. So this is what is, what I can say in this year of only a few months, in my experience.
Understood. As a former community board chair, I don't want to cut the community board out of the process. I feel very strongly about that. The community boards do need to be involved. I think we've got to look at other ways to cut down on the length, whether it's on this insurance side or other delays that are causing this length of time, and also a deterrent for applicants. But the other thing that I'm concerned about is some comments that were made that, for some businesses, I'm worried they still don't see the difference between these two application processes. It is a little bit confusing still. And so what is the agency doing to disseminate information to small businesses so they understand, look, we've got these different options, these are the costs associated, these are the timelines associated, so that is also not a deterrent?
We spend a lot of time, and I can say that, the great two director of this program, Lawrence Antonelli and Pini, they do a great job. And they work with the HICWA team, and they spend time together. Since I've been running this agency, I spend 1 day a month in each borough. And in each of those meetings, we include a piece related to providing information. We invite business owners to come. We work with the SBS, holding Zoom meeting with the business owners. I would say, in my experience right now, if there's one area that we need to look at it on how to cut the time, it's not based about, the time or processes. It's about the other pieces. Like some business owners, they haven't completed the process because they haven't paid. So this is something that is not on this government side. This is about the business owner have decided for different reasons that they have not been paying, and the law as it is require for the business owner to pay in order to, finish this application.
Okay. So in terms of staffing, you have the exact same amount of staffing as at the last hearing. And does the agency not feel that there's a need to add additional lines to expedite things?
Well, we know OMB from different side, myself from this side, all of you guys who used to work at City Hall. And we know that when the moment from the moment when the money additional funding was allocated to the agency by today for months, we already been fully staffed. So there's no lack that we have right now. We are not behind. Again, we don't have any issue at DOT when it comes to having the number of men and women to process application. The number that of those that are not completed is not based on the agency. It's based about what I explained before. But we already been staffed with the additional resources that being allocated by this administration to us.
And then can you reiterate the 3,000 conditional applications? At what point will all of those be fully approved?
Again, it's up to the applicants to keep finalizing the process. And the commissioner just mentioned a moment ago, many of the folks who are operating as with a conditional approval, they haven't yet paid the fees for the program. So they do have an incentive to operate under that status. That will now be ending into next year. So that does mean they do need to complete those final stages of the process.
Now,
Madam Chair, if I may, when the agency and City Hall made the decision to provide the conditional approvals, which I believe was still the right decision so that we could guarantee operations by all the restaurants, we knew that one of the consequences could be that the payment or that the revenue that the city was getting was going to be pushed to the next fiscal year, which is what Margaret is alluding. So it was actually a conscious decision to allow the conditional approvals, knowing that the agency was going to forego some of the sort of the carrot and the stick that we would normally have for the restaurants to pay the revocable consent fees that Margaret, that our first deputy commissioner is asking.
But isn't there a concern that the revocable consent fees are perhaps too high and that that is an impediment to these small businesses and that is why they're not moving forward on it?
Well, listen, that's a good conversation that I think we went a lot of back and forth between the council and the administration on what we thought was the right amount for the revocable consent fees. We still think they're much lower than the original program. I would say though that the restaurants who went through the process knew exactly what those fees were going to be. So I don't think it's a matter of them. I think it's just a matter of them paying whenever they need to pay. And by providing the conditional approvals, we essentially extended that deadline until right about now, ahead of next season.
Another question, with this deadline of November 29th on the roadway cafes being required to stop operating and being removed, how is the administration working to ensure these structures are broken down by the deadline?
Yes, so we have begun reminding every restaurant operator that this deadline is approaching. We have reached out to them in multiple ways, multiple times. And then basically starting on Monday, we will visit each location to confirm that it has been removed.
Did you have something to add to that?
No, I would just say that we're going to follow the process that's outlined in the legislation by issuing corrective action requests, and then if people don't remove in response to those, then issuing summonses.
And how many violations have been issued for noise and sanitation related to the outdoor dining program?
So noise and sanitation go to other agencies. So I believe that we did check that in anticipation of your question. And in the last year, there were only 24 issued by other
on
city
which?
agencies.
On noise, sanitation, or both?
Yes, they're both combined together. 24 total.
24.
Correct.
And that is complaints? That is what is
Those were violations issued by PD or sanitation,
24
possibly DEP.
violations. How many complaints on noise and how many complaints on sanitation?
Not very many more than that. We'll get that number and we'll follow up with you. But it was a lot less than it had been in the temporary program.
All right, I know our colleagues have waited patiently, so let me turn it over to them. Councilmember De La Rosa, followed by Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you so much, chairs, and hello, Commissioner and team. I do have a few questions about the dining out. So you testified that you cut the red tape by granting conditional applications. When the conditional applications are granted, if there is significant community input that there is an issue. What is the process for remediating?
We did not grant any conditional approvals until the application had already gone through much of the process and there had been a hearing.
Great.
Community board had also already opined.
Okay, great. And then in terms of the removal of the 200 illegal enclosures, the complaint number, the amount of complaints that you got was over 3,000?
The whole program itself, we had about 5,700 311s or other, letters or emails, things to that effect. And we followed up on each and every one with an inspection.
And then 200 were removed.
Those were 200 structures that were illegal or abandoned, a lot of like the shed-like structures that people had left on the street.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, since the program is supposed to end on the 29th, and I think Chair Brooks Powers talked about this a little bit. So what's going to happen in the next 5 days? Like, what is the communication like to businesses? Is there language, access accommodations, and what assistance is granted for removal?
Okay.
First of all, I would say that all restaurant owners, they know that this program goes from April to November. However, we don't stop communicating with them. But when it came, is there anyone that may be confused that he or she doesn't know that they have to remove it? The answer is no. They already been communicated.
Okay. And is there assistance?
It's the responsibility of each restaurant to remove and store their own materials.
Okay. Okay, if we get any inquiries about a restaurant that has a hardship or anything like that, is that something we can communicate to the agency, or there's no?
There's not assistance.
Okay.
The program said everyone is responsible to storage.
Okay. I do have a question about intro 1320, about Councilmember Felice's bill on the removal of trees. Can you walk through that process of removal of trees? Because we do get some questions about, broken up sidewalks and whose responsibility is it? If it's a city-owned tree, is it DOT that's responsible? Can you walk us through that process?
So for 1, 2, or 3 family properties, we do conduct a lot of inspections of the sidewalks in front of those properties. And what we will do is we will provide the property owner with a violation, has no monetary value or fine associated with it. But on that violation, it clearly indicates which sidewalk flags or squares are the result of a tree damage or tree root problem. So they are not held responsible for any of the damage that is caused by tree roots. However, if any remaining portions of that sidewalk are in disrepair, not due to tree roots, yes, they are responsible. So what can happen then is the property owner can go and repair it themselves, or they can wait for us to come with a contract. We have about, right now, $40 million worth of sidewalk contracts. We would come in, repair the sidewalk completely, address the tree root problem, but only back charge the property owner for the portion of the sidewalk that was not caused by tree roots.
Okay. My question is because I do have a case with a tree root. So if the damage is caused by the root, the city will adhere the cost of removing the roots, or how do we proactively?
That's a good question. So we're happy to help you or the constituent along throughout the process. Parks does do some tree root and tree pruning work in order to address these locations. And then we also do some. So between the two agencies, that is possible to get that work done.
Okay.
So we can work with you
All
on
right.
that.
So I'll follow up offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, chairs. Appreciate the opportunity to ask some questions this morning, and thank you once again for holding this hearing. I just want to dig in a little bit further on Chair Menin's questions around the data. So, of those 400 restaurants that are currently operating, could you just break down, are those all roadway dining?
It's about 300 roadway and the rest sidewalk.
300 roadway, and then how many sidewalk?
About 100.
100. Okay, 400 establishments. Okay. And And there were 4,000 applications this season?
Altogether to date, there have been 4,100 and change, although a number of those, a couple hundred came in since the last hearing.
4,100 and change. So 9 point something percent of the restaurants that have applied have successfully been able to operate either roadway dining structures or sidewalk cafes. Is that right?
Have completed the process, but we issued conditional approvals to close to 3,000. So
But
those
9% are
restaurants
actually
able to operate.
operational. Operational. I just mean how many today in the streets, 9 point something percent of the applicants, 90 something percent are not.
No. So the conditional approvals, anyone who got a conditional approval, or if they were authorized under the legislation, if they applied for sidewalk prior to August 3rd, 2024, they were all able to operate throughout the season.
Okay. There were, according to what we understand, about 8,000 restaurants operating during the height of the pandemic. Is that roadway dining? Is that your understanding as well?
6,000 to 8,000.
6,000 to 8,000. Okay. And so our data was that there were 8,000 restaurants operating roadway dining out of 12,500 total participating restaurants. That's not right? 12,500 is not the total number of participating restaurants?
What we saw, Councilmember, was that many restaurants at one point or the other during COVID signed up for dining out. Many of them did not actually partake in it. Some came and some went. So as the commissioner said, we estimate about between 6,000 and 8,000 were participating at the height of that time.
Okay. My understanding was that 13,144 applied for the temporary program. Is that not right? Is that the correct number of total applicants previously? 8,000 for
we will
roadway,
confirm.
11,000 for sidewalk?
We know that many more did apply, as I mentioned, than actually operated.
Okay, so just long way of saying 13,000 plus applied for roadway or sidewalk during the height of the pandemic during the temporary program. We're now down to about 4,100. So 2/3 of the restaurants that previously applied no longer applied as a result of the changes in the program.
I would say it differently. I would say 2/3 of the restaurants that were in operation during COVID are still part of the program. But naturally, because COVID is no longer present, we don't need
The numbers that you all
outdoor
have are a
dining as
little-
much. And there's also a cost to the program. And we have changed the program to make sure it is most responsible to the needs of all New Yorkers. The program has morphed over time, and it's a very robust outdoor dining program with about 2/3 of the people still involved.
I mean, robust, we're only 400 restaurants have been able to make it through an arduous process, and many others have a conditional approval, and where we've seen 2/3 of the restaurants that had previously applied in terms of just total numbers no longer even applied because of the costs and the cost of the setup and the temporary nature of the program. So, you know, I would say based on the data, we could spin it in a variety of ways. It's just clear that the program is not working. I would love if you could help me understand, have you surveyed restaurants for why they're not participating and what are the biggest obstacles?
And I'm going to just ask you to wrap up, please, also.
Really? Okay.
Look, I think that we can choose, and I always say in life, I know about we understanding that we play different role. And I think that the comparison that we need to make is a city where dining out that used to be called Sidewalk Cafe was only in Manhattan down Columbia University. And they were mainly in middle and upper class community. And there was only 1,200. And today we have more than 3,000. During COVID, anyone could put a table and a chair and start serving food.
They asked
And
me to wrap
sometimes
up
people
already.
build infrastructure that there was not safe. There was no following any fire department code, department of building. And I think that working together, we put the best dining out program, not only the larger one, but the best one in the nation.
Okay. So could I just ask the question again because I didn't get an answer? Have you surveyed restaurants of why they're not participating? We've seen a phenomenal reduction in the number of restaurants that participate. Restaurants aren't able to make it through your application process. Have you surveyed them? Do you have clear data on why they're not participating?
We have lots of ongoing dialogue with the industry in many different ways, and we're happy to explore further other ways we can
That sounds
make
like-
sure the program is appealing as possible to everybody.
Okay. I'm out of time. Have a nice day.
Thank you. The panel is relieved. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind
Thank
members
you.
of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic. Update on Dining Out NYC program and introductions: 1142, 1320, 1368, 1421, 1423, 1426, 1444, and 1446. If you have written testimony or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. We'll call the first panel. Max Booman, Cecil Brooks Jr., Jean Ryan, Betsy Mock, and we just ask everyone to please adhere to the 2-minute rule.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Max Bookman. I am Legislative Counsel to the New York City Hospitality Alliance. We are the largest bar and restaurant industry trade association in the 5 boroughs, and we've been key stakeholders in the outdoor dining process since day one. It's in regards from our Executive Director, Andrew Ridgie. He's been selected by the mayor-elect to join a transition committee that's meeting at the same time. Otherwise, he would have been joining here with me. The outdoor dining bills under consideration today are all extremely important to our industry, and we support them all. It sounds like from DOT's testimony that they'd like to push this off until to the next administration. We really can't have that. This needs to be done now so there could be clarity by the springtime, especially concerning the roadway dining. I just want to push back on the narrative that I heard from the administration that applicants are not paying their fees, or that's sort of contributing to the delay of the process. DOT is requiring a full year's worth of consent fees up front. That's different from the way that DCA did it. Under the old pre-pandemic program, DCA allowed a quarterly payment of consent fees. What landlord in this city requires you to pay 12 months of rent up front? Restaurants are getting sticker shock by these fees, and that is contributing to, I'd say, some delay, but it's within DOT's power to handle. Also, the notion that the ball is in the applicant's court on a number of items is really not the full story, and we'd be happy to provide you examples offline. Of all the aspects of the bills that are before you, year-round roadway dining is essential. Participation numbers in roadway dining have been abysmal compared to the pre-pandemic, compared to the pandemic program. And Councilmember Ressler really nailed it. Restaurants are just not participating in this program because it's too burdensome to put it up and take it down every few months. Instead of having a vibrant 5-borough program, roadway dining has basically been concentrated to Manhattan below 96th Street, which is really not the goal at all. Also, as you heard in your April oversight hearing, sidewalk cafes are suffering too. We really support the bill that will bring us back to the old simple rule of 8-foot clearances versus the complicated rule they have now. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betsy Mack. I'm the Vice Chair of Committee Board 7 Queens. Committee Board 7 Queens is strongly opposed to this proposal. CB7 Queens was unanimously 40-0 to disapprove the open restaurant tax in 2021. Downtown Flushing is already one of the most congested neighborhoods in the city. The current proposal suggests that downsizing sidewalk to only 8 feet wide would be considered sufficient for pedestrians, but in reality, they are nowhere near wide enough to accommodate the heavy foot traffic in the area. Any expansion of sidewalk cafes would aggregate congestions. Just a few years ago, DOT spent millions of dollars to widen the Main Street sidewalk in downtown Flushing to improve the pedestrian safety and flow. Now, this new proposal would reverse and undermine these efforts. Sidewalk conditions are already severely strained due to illegal vendors and grocery store stoop line violators occupying much of the pedestrian space. Because enforcement is infrequent, these vendors and violators simply return, creating crowded and unsafe conditions. Pedestrians are often forced off the sidewalk dangerously into the roadway that is extremely busy with SBS bus service. Given these conditions, there's absolutely no room to accommodate any sidewalk cafes in downtown Flushing. In addition, no one knows the street better than the community boards. Eliminating our inputs is not acceptable. Some community boards may have responded slowly in the past, but instead of removing their role, simply set a reasonable deadline for comments. For all these reasons, Committee Board 7 Queens urge you to reject these proposals that will make downtown Flushing more crowded and less safe. We ask that you prioritize the pedestrian safety and the quality of life for our community.
Thank you.
Hello, happy Monday and happy National Sardines Day for all of my Italians and pescadores. My name is Cecil Brooks, a proud Uptown resident and professional foodie who wants to see our city thrive. As part of the Open Plans team, we have long advocated for an outdoor dining program that makes our streets as vibrant and delicious as possible. Intros 1421 and 1446 make great progress toward that goal. The last time you saw us in April, our report, Digging into Dining Out, highlighted dozens of discussions with restaurant owners that revealed the exorbitant financial burdens associated with seasonal outdoor dining. Tens of thousands of dollars for breakdown, setup, and storage prevents many shops and communities like mine from participating in the program. Shockingly, only 8.9% of curbside seating was located in the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island combined. Again, the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island combined. In other words, the current program is significantly geographically limited and inequitable. Doesn't make dollars or cents. Intros 1421 and 1446 both make the program better by protecting the right of the restaurant industry members to operate year-round and making the application process more accessible. We at Open Plans and world-class establishments like La Morada in the South Bronx, Bar Goyana in East Harlem, and the Mansion in the Upper East Side look forward to working with the council to make our outdoor dining program and the Dining Out NYC initiative as successful as possible. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Hi, I'm Jean Ryan. I'm president of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York, DIA for short. Disabled in Action is in favor of outdoor dining, but only if it is accessible to people with disabilities. In the first iteration, many roadway restaurants were not accessible, even though that was the rule, and even when we complained, it did nothing. Nobody changed. And we couldn't get in. So it just is like a slap in the face seeing an outdoor restaurant and you can't even get in and you can't buy their food. That's not fair. Why weren't they accessible? I've complained to DOT and nothing happens. There are even some inaccessible roadway restaurants now that we can't get into. I can't go up an 8-inch thing to, space to get into a restaurant that's that high. I've complained to DOT and nothing happens. Winter outdoor dining might be fun for some, but many structures were just sitting there, abandoned or used to store things like a Christmas tree or construction stuff. And I bet the same thing will happen if year-round outdoor dining happens again, because most people don't want to sit outside in the winter. Some of the sidewalk cafes have high tables, and that prevents us from patronizing that restaurant also. It's also against the code and the ADA. One restaurant near me had a sidewalk cafe all summer and is only now applying for a license tonight, today. They just coasted along without, trying to further the process. It wasn't the community board's fault, it was theirs. I just have a few more sentences. We're not in favor of year-round roadway dining, but we have no problem with sidewalk cafes if they are accessible and allow enough room for us to pass. We think the fine for not repairing a defective sidewalk should be more money. In many neighborhoods, we cannot go on a block because the sidewalk is so messed up from trees or something else. It's so frustrating and dangerous to have to detour in the street to continue to our destination. And it's scary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to this panel. We appreciate your testimony. I'm now going to call the next panel. Augustine Hope, Leslie Charley. Okay, sorry, I couldn't read the handwriting. Michelle Canizo and Douglas Davis. If you could please come down. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Good morning. My name is Augustine Hope. I'm president of the West Village Residents Association, which represents many long-term renters, homeowners, and business owners in our community. We have a particular interest in this Dining Out New York program, largely because it has a disproportionate impact on us. As you're probably aware, there are almost 25,000 liquor licenses in New York City, so for every license, there are on average 350 residents. In our community, the West Village, however, there are just 70 residents for every license, which means that any problems that crop up will have 5 times the impact on us. You can see us, if you like, as an early warning system. What we are experiencing now is what you will experience in the future in other parts of the city. So let me give you an example of such a problem. 25 years ago, of the 1,356 retail spaces in our neighborhood, just 10% had liquor licenses, which is a very fair number. Today, that figure is 1/3, 1/3. And that number is accelerating, largely because you are subsidizing a single private industry to such an unprecedented extent, giving restaurants, and only restaurants, exclusive and virtually free use of public space, and certainly free while they're still conditional licenses. The small business owners that don't have this perk, the independent pharmacies, the barbers, bodegas, butchers, toy stores, hardware stores, clothing stores, gift stores, florists, all the places that make a neighborhood livable, they find they can no longer compete on rent. It is, if you like, an affordability crisis. In your rush to turn NYC into a version of Club Med, you are in fact turning it into Club Dead. The same issue that bedevils the center cities of Barcelona, Rome, Amsterdam, and Venice, among others, where residents are in open revolt. So here are some proposals for correcting this imbalance. First, instead of charging just $8 to $10 per square foot for use of public space in our neighborhood, do you wish me to continue? I have about 4 points.
We have to keep to the time frame, but could you submit your testimony in writing?
I will do.
Is that possible? Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We very much appreciate it. Thank you. Could just
Sorry.
press the
Okay.
button. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
my name is Leslie Clark. I'm also with West Village Residents. I am here in opposition to Intro 1421, which would give yet more municipal property on both the roadway and the sidewalk to an industry that has already been amply enriched by outdoor dining. This industry received $5.5 billion, that's a B for billion, in federal grants and forgiven loans during the pandemic. And they have also received free use of municipal property for over 5.5 years, and they are continued to do so under the conditional licensing program. No wonder they don't want to finish the application. They'd have to start paying if they did. I would like to see that if the city council wants to continue to give even more and more and more to this industry, then I propose that along with this bill, you also give workers something, a living wage, quite apart from tips. In his successful campaign for mayor, Assemblymember Mamdani asked for that very thing, asking for a new minimum wage of $30 an hour. When working people have more money in their pocket, the overall economy thrives. We have to change that. I agree. Assemblymember Mamdani also supported state legislation proposed by Robert Jackson that would bring restaurant workers' wages on par with the rest of the state on top of tips. He said it is time to answer that call. It is time that we have a governor, we have a mayor-elect and a state senator who have called for the end of what they deem as wage theft. Let's give the worker back something. This is a worker protection committee. If you're going to give it to the restaurant, give it to the worker. A minimum, a living wage on top of tips. Thank you.
My name is Douglas Davis. I'm a neighborhood gadfly, security, safety person. I am OSHA licensed. I am a qualified person as I walk onto a job site and they have to listen to me. And I observe constantly how the workers are being abused, and if they are to be hired through the cold of winter, it is only going to be forgotten. The workers will be suffer the brunt of any extension of this program. Also, the Department of Transportation is woefully inept with this, obviously, just to listen to this. As we had before, local control, the 8-foot minimum. One of the proponents of these changes just said, keep it, at least get back to an 8-foot minimum so we can regulate this. So that's off the top of my head, once again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We need to take a 5-minute pause before we call the next panel. There's just going to be a 5-minute pause, and then we will resume in 5 minutes.
So okay, they'll hold the fort down. Yeah. Sarah has to present too. So John and Adam will hold the fort. And it's just called names at this point.
Yeah.
How did it go? Basically. Okay. Oh wow, so a lot of people on Zoom.
Yeah, these are only people that are on. You have to call out every name. So.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm sure this is exactly as you.
As I'd intended to spend it. Yeah. This is for you. Thank you. You can pull it because I'm good.
I'm just so confused.
No, pull it because I'm fully charged.
So how'd you get the tickets?
I know. It's really tried to change it and then like they're back. Sort of changes.
Do you have a Lois Frank?
That sounds good. Yeah, I do.
Is she coming up or she was over?
Yeah, we have a Zoom panel and then she's on.
Okay, great. How'd you get the tickets? Like, you didn't have to show out anything for that? You didn't have to show out?
No, not at all. No.
If it's a good experience.
No. It probably won't be. No, it's actually supposed to be nice weather this year. Last year was raining and it was cold. This year's supposed to be like warm.
Okay. So, yeah.
No. Please.
So, Menon said should be back in like 5. Do we know if Brooks Powers is coming
to swear one of you in. You guys can do it.
Or that's just like what's happening.
What? Yeah. Go.
We are going to resume the hearing. And the next panel is on Zoom. Britt Bird, Valerie De La Rosa, Donna Rafferty.
All right, we're good to go?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, Chairs Menon and Brooks Powers. Thank you for holding this hearing. I'm here representing Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. As a member of the City Council, he was the lead sponsor of two bills, one that created the Emergency Open Restaurants Program and a precursor to the bill that Council ultimately passed in 2023 to make that program permanent. This program has been a lifeline for small restaurants. During the pandemic, it saved approximately 100,000 jobs, allowed for people to interact socially in a safe setting, and generated tax revenue for the city. It has also helped New Yorkers reimagine what our streets can be, which is why so many New Yorkers share our desire to see the program succeed. Yet, due to the seasonal rules that this council adopted, we've seen the number of open restaurants drop from about 8,000 at the program's peak to about 2,500 earlier this year to 0 in the winter months. The seasonal program simply creates too many burdens on small businesses. The cost of purchasing an outdoor dining setup and paying to construct it, only to have to pay again to take it down and then pay again to store it in the off season, is too burdensome for many businesses and is the most cited reason for why restaurants are not choosing to participate. Intro 1421 addresses this by allowing open restaurants to operate all year, as was originally intended. This will encourage more creative designs, create more year-round jobs, and encourage the vibrant street life that New Yorkers enjoy. Intro 1421 also addresses other important issues with the program. It ensures expedited approvals by preventing community boards from requiring extra application materials. The agency level approval requirements are sufficient to ensure safety, appropriateness, cleanliness, and accessibility. It also expands the number of businesses that can participate by opening the program to grocery and specialty food stores, and by creating an option for businesses that are too small to have their own setup to expand into adjacent business owners' space. Removing these barriers is in line with the program's original intent to make it as easy as possible for small businesses, immigrant-run businesses, and
Thank you for
businesses
your
outside
testimony. Your
Manhattan
time
to
has
participate
expired.
without a major cost burden or too much red tape. The proposals in Intro 1446 also support this by addressing the digital
Sir, I'm
divide,
sorry, you need to,
expanding
that is the 2
access
minutes. If you could please
to
submit the
application
rest of your
information
testimony in writing. Thank you very
and
much.
making applications
Thank
easier
you.
to submit.
If we could please have the next speaker, thank you. Valerie De La Rosa or Donna Rafferty on Zoom. Okay, we are going to move on then. The next panel is Norma Coate, Layla Passman, Carol Putri. Okay. Lois Frank. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I guess I'm on. My name is Norma Cote. I'm just a public citizen. I live in Manhattan. I want to comment particularly on Bill 1444 about the clear pedestrian path and a little bit about 1421. As to the clear path, I think it's important to note how this legislation came to be in the first place. It came about because the comptroller wrote to DOT saying, in effect, give the restaurant industry whatever they want. And what we have in 1444 essentially is everything that the restaurant industry wanted. I would say before you even consider voting in favor of this, demand that the restaurant industry give you authoritative treatises, text, standards on sidewalk design, the principles of sidewalk design that say it's a good idea to have the same fixed width for a sidewalk, for a clear path all over the city, regardless of the nature of the sidewalk, the location, the conditions, the need, the capacity. Is particularly bad when the maximum clear path that you think is appropriate on a residential street be also used on the biggest, most crowded streets in the city. If they cannot show you that there's an authoritative treatise that says it's a good idea to let the sidewalk cafes take over every square foot of the sidewalk that's not absolutely necessary for a clear path, then don't vote for this. Sidewalks perform many different purposes in addition to pedestrian traffic. They let people congregate and mix. They let people stop and linger and pause and talk to one another. And if the only thing that is left to pedestrians is that clear path for travel, they're saying, in effect, keep moving. Thank you. My time is up. I'll submit the remainder of my testimony in writing.
Am I good? Dear committee members, the Atlantic Avenue Business Improvement District provides direct services and advocacy for businesses and residents of the Atlantic Avenue corridor in the vibrant Brooklyn neighborhoods of Brooklyn Heights, Cobble Hill, Boerum Hill, and downtown Brooklyn. We thank this bill's sponsor, Councilman Lincoln Ressler, who is our city council representative for our district. We applaud his proposed reforms, which overhaul a failing framework to restore year-round open dining, allow expanded footprints for small restaurants, and let businesses like grocery stores and retail food establishments to be eligible to participate. Our district is home to some of New York City's oldest and most beloved legacy food stores, such as Sahadi's and Damascus Bakery, both of which sell substantial prepared foods in addition to groceries. It would be wonderful to enjoy grab-and-go food items from these shops and eat them outside. This summer, members of the City Council heard from one of our board members and small business owners, Megan Rickerson of Someday Bar. She laid bare the issues she personally faced in order to be compliant and relaunch her outdoor dining roadway structure. As you know, she was among the minority of businesses owners citywide who pursued outdoor dining. The current system is so expensive and convoluted to launch that most businesses do not bother to participate. If the city wants to support small businesses, we must streamline the ability for businesses to grow with outdoor dining. The consequences of the current program are evident citywide and on Atlantic Avenue. We currently have a mere 3 outdoor dining spaces, down from 19 before the new requirements, and we are just one small district in one borough. This bill will keep our independent restaurants here so we can continue to be the Atlantic Avenue of Fast and Fresh Burrito and El Sazon, except not Chili's, and our Lila's Cucina and Soto Casa instead of Olive Garden and Domino's. Thank you for your consideration.
Carol Poutre-Ches here, representative of the East Fifth Street Block Association. Outdoor dining was a gift during COVID. It helped restaurants stay alive and gave residents a respite from their isolation. Well, COVID is over. There is no reason to give establishments year-round free use of pedestrian walkways for their businesses. I am sure the council member who proposed this bill does not live upstairs from a restaurant with outdoor dining. If they did, they would never want to extend throughout the year the noise of loud voices getting louder as fueled by alcohol as the evening progresses, clinking plates, music. Yes, outdoor music is not allowed, but it happens all the time. It is impossible to listen to a TV, read a book, and forget about sleeping in any of the frontal rooms above a restaurant. Add to that the increased trash, rats, and traffic congestion from taxis and service cars. At least please give us a break during these winter months. And as to allowing only 8 feet for a pedestrian passageway, what about people with walkers, wheelchairs, baby carriages, and people with disabilities who should not have to wade their way through the crowds waiting for tables? I have often had to take the risk of walking in the bike lane, which resembles I-95, what with speeding delivery guys and Citibanks. Please think about what's best for the residents of this city. Do not vote for these proposals. Thank you.
That was great. Can you hear me? Lois Frank, ditto everything she just said. That's exactly what we're all experiencing in Community Board 2 downtown. It's incredibly crowded, it's way over congested, and what we started to notice is that a lot of these awnings covering the sidewalk cafes are blocking the ladders that come down from fire escapes. These ladders are being blocked by awnings, and then now in the wintertime, there are heating elements under these awnings. I don't hear anyone talking about that at all, but it's something definitely to notice with at least sidewalk seating. With roadway seating, for a while we had roadway sheds that were meeting like this, cutting off access to apartment building entrances that were right there. So if you need an ambulance or something, that ambulance has to park around the corner because of roadway sheds that meet. And for the roadway sheds that had just a few feet of space, they were fetid, putrid puddles of water that never evaporated. And they'd turn all sorts of like green and disgusting colors. And when they spray in the summertime because of infestation of insects, that's what these fetid puddles promote, are insects. And I just want to say, I really have enjoyed outdoor dining. I promoted outdoor dining in the beginning, but come on, it's over. These businesses can't say, we need it, we need it, we need it. It's a hostile takeover of pedestrians, of residents who have put up with so much drunken conversations at night that just come into your window. You cannot avoid it. It's a hostile takeover, and we're asking you to balance bicycles, outdoor dining, roadway dining, people walking with strollers, with walkers. You can do it. Thank you.
And Thank you. And I'm going to call our next panel, Michelle Spinner, Nina Medici, David Rosenberg.
Are you ready for me?
Michelle, you may begin.
Very good. My name is Michelle Spinner. I am a 41-year resident of Chelsea and Vice President of the London Terrace Tenants Association. I speak on behalf of the LTTA when I say we are against Intro 1421 and Intro 1444. Outdoor dining is a highly visible use of public space with daily impacts on accessibility, noise, safety, street cleanliness, and neighborhood character. Decisions regarding our public spaces must be grounded in robust community engagement, not rushed through without adequate public participation, as has been the case here. The proposed legislation expands on the new outdoor dining rules, which have been in effect for less than a year, and thus would potentially worsen already thorny problems. For instance, noise complaints remain frequent in areas where late-night operations disrupt residents' ability to rest and sleep. Sidewalk congestion, particularly affecting seniors, people with disabilities, and parents with strollers, continues to push pedestrians into the street. While more and better enforcement has been repeatedly promised, oversight remains limited, and it is unclear how an expanded program would be effectively monitored. Taken together, Intro 1421 and 1444 promote commercial expansion at the direct expense of pedestrians, safe intersections, accessible sidewalks, and the integrity of public space, not to mention a good night's sleep. New York is a city of walkers. We deserve a pedestrian-first public realm. Furthermore, we feel allowing more types of businesses, not just restaurants, to operate outdoor sheds could open the door to a free-for-all of business uses that go far beyond the program's original intent. I repeat, the LTTA is against Intro 1421 and 1444.
Thank you for your testimony. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Chairs Brooks Powers, Chair Menon, and council members for holding today's joint hearing. My name is Nycc, and I'm the policy manager at Transportation Alternatives. We're here to testify in enthusiastic support of year-round outdoor dining in Intros 1421 and 1446. New York deserves a year-round outdoor dining program that works for restaurants and patrons. These two bills are a strong step in the right direction. Restaurants don't close for the winter, and neither should our outdoor dining. The current program is impossible for small restaurants who don't have the resources to build new structures each year or store materials during the off months, and the current application process is too bureaucratic and long. These two bills can fix that. With a more streamlined, accessible, and year-round system, New Yorkers in every neighborhood can dine outside, and restaurants in every neighborhood can increase their seating space and raise revenues. Making it easier for restaurants to survive a slow January or chilly March, and more money for the city. New York is famous worldwide for its restaurants, but without a consistent and stable program, we're limiting them. It's time to pass these bills and make it easier to get some of the city's hardest reservations. New York deserves a permanent year-round outdoor dining program that works for everyone, and the council has a chance to make this happen. We believe in a city and future that puts our shared public curbs to better use and reimagining the streetscape to be vibrant, accessible, and usable for all New Yorkers. Thank you for your time. We'll submit a longer written testimony.
You're muted, David. Unmuted.
Thank you. I'm here to express my strong opposition and deep disappointment regarding proposed bills 1421, 1444, 1446. As a longtime resident of Greenwich Village, I am frankly appalled that these measures are being advanced by this council. These bills suggest a prioritization of industry interests, particularly those of the Hospitality Alliance, over the quality of life and well-being of New York City residents. It is difficult to understand how these proposals align with the mission of a committee that claims to protect consumers. Residents spent years working with the Department of Transportation to develop the 2024 outdoor dining regulations, rules that many of us considered a compromise. Yet those regulations have already been undermined by inadequate DOT enforcement and extensive FDNY waivers. Now, instead of strengthening oversight, these council members are proposing amendments that would further erode the balance we fought to achieve. Regarding 1421, which would make road day dining year-round, directly contradicts the intent of the 2024 DOT rules. Residents pushed back against year-round roadway dining because of the noise, trash, heating equipment, and sidewalk disruptions they bring. We successfully fought this battle once. Why is it being revived? Reinstitution year-round roadway and sidewalk structures disregard the clearly articulated concerns of communities across the city. I oppose this bill in the strongest possible terms. Our streets and sidewalks exist for the public, not as a permanent extension of private commercial space. Regarding 1444, which would reduce the required clear pedestrian path, is another step backwards. The existing clearance requirements were a compromise designed to protect safety and accessibility. One of my own neighbors suffered a serious injury after tripping over a dining obstruction before these standards were implemented. Weakening these protections now would be irresponsible and dangerous. I strongly oppose this bill. Regarding
Thank you for your testimony. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Valerie De La Rosa, Michelle Canzo, Christopher Leanne Johnson.
Oh, you want to go first? Okay. Yeah. Hello, Chairs Menon and Brooks Powers. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here to show support for Intro 1368 and related to the gun violence bereavement bill package to amend when somebody gets shot and killed in the street, the family member is allowed to take days for bereavement. I support this bill because of the fact that I believe that nobody should be dependent on GoFundMe or any of these crowdsourcing website, these funding source websites to reimburse them when someone gets shot and killed on the street. I believe that the employer should be able to pay for that. The employer sometimes these employers makes millions of dollars a day, $1 billion a day. It doesn't hurt them when they paying a certain amount of money, paying out the money when somebody gets shot and killed to a family, a person gets shot and killed on the street. I believe that gun violence should be taken more seriously in the city council. Gun violence should be taken more seriously by the mayor's office. This mayor's office and the incoming administration was the Ron Madani administration. I believe that all right, sorry about that. I believe that you just threw me off with that. Okay, yeah. So going forward, I support these bills. I support this bill 100%. Thank you for the council members that jumped onto this bill. Like I said, nobody should be depending on funding from outside like GoFundMe to supplement this stuff. I think the city has enough money to really make this happen. And just to end it here, I'm shocked. I'm sad that the mayor's office didn't come and say they support this and say that they care about this stuff. They be out every month with these organizations that get government funding, but a bill like this, they refuse to show up. And, they should be condemned for that. But thank you so much and enjoy your day. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, Chairs Brooks, Powers, and Menon, members of the committees and the committee councils. I'm Valerie De La Rosa. I am chair of Manhattan Community Board 2, CB2, and I'm speaking on behalf of the board. CB2 has held public hearings for 542 roadway and sidewalk cafe applications. That is 30% of all outdoor dining cafes in Manhattan and nearly 20% of outdoor dining cafes across all 5 boroughs. Outdoor dining has been a resounding success in our district, in CB2, and revocable consent fees are 55% cheaper than before COVID for most of CB2. Now, here's what works. Regarding Intro 1421, seasonal roadway dining works in Manhattan CB2. Year-round roadway dining ends up being used as seasonal storage. And research shows asphalt and pavement surfaces are under intense thermal and structural stress during warmer months, absorbing heat, expanding and contracting, and accelerating and fatiguing and cracking. Year-round rapid dining rapidly turns into either a building with doors, windows, electricity, heating elements, and generators used for winter storage. Regarding the clear path requirements, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, all of those matter in our district. They are so important on our narrow streets that the pedestrian mobility plan is adhered to as recommended by NYC DOT. To preserve the integrity of current clear path requirements, our board actually voted to eliminate the requirement of a perimeter demarcation for sidewalk cafes with a single row of 2 tops, 1 table with 2 chairs, that are directly against and parallel to the building facade in order to maintain the clear path. We think that that is good for business, and we think that that is a robust outdoor dining program. With that, we stand ready to work with the council, DOT, operators, and neighborhood stakeholders to ensure that the Dining Out NYC program remains vibrant, safe, and equitable. Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Michelle Campo. I'm Vice President of the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors. And I will be brief. I will submit something later. But I just want to say that one size does not fit all. And that's what these bills are trying to do. We're opposed to all of them. And I live in Little Italy, which has untold number of roadbed sheds. They do not work. They are in the way of everybody, and the collection of garbage is just beyond the pale. I mean, it was after years of compromise, we came down to something that kind of worked, which was, open air and something that comes in at night and something that comes in when, after November. But the thing that's, I have watched fire engines that cannot get up the block. The head of the firemen's union is strongly against these sheds in the street. If you live above them, he said, be very worried. Now that should tell you something. I mean, it's scary. It's just scary. And I think that we need something that if we need it, and New York, I've heard it said New York is like Paris. It is nothing like Paris, okay? Let's get that down. And it just, if it has to be, I have a place on my corner that has 2 sheds, one on the side street and one in front of the building. One on the side street, nobody has ever been in. Does that mean it comes down? No. We need something that has more logic to it, and extending the full year, and extending the sidewalk so people can't walk by, and extending the sounds that go with that so that the people who live upstairs cannot do their work. And they do work up there too, if they can hear. Thank you. Are we done?
Thank you. Next on Zoom, we'll hear from Melody Jimenez, Kathy Arntzen, and Rachel Wilkerson. Melody, you may begin.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Melody Jimenez, founder of No Voice Unheard, an organization that services families that are affected by gun gang and street violence. I want to thank you guys for allowing us to have a meeting for Intro 1368. I brought this item to Councilmember Salamanca, and it was drafted after sitting at court with family members. Realized that many are struggling to pay their bills after sitting in court and grieving over losing a child to gun violence. So I thought it would be a great idea if we introduce legislation that would allow families to have 10 days off to grieve their lost loved one, whether it's a child or a family member. So I urge council members to jump on this bill in the mayor's office to back us and to sign this bill into legislation. It will do a service to the families and it will show support from the city that they are heard, seen, and understood during the time of grief. Thank you.
Kathy, you're unmuted.
Yes, hi. My name is Kathy Arnson. Thank you for your time today. I am the president of the Central Village Block Association, which covers the area from 6th to 7th Avenue between Bleecker and West 4th. These are narrow streets with safety and quality of life concerns that need to be addressed. We are troubled by Intro 1421, 44, and 46. They leave out an important issue. This is the people who live here and the problems they face. The village has always had outdoor dining before the pandemic, and we supported our local restaurants, but this one-size-fits-all program does not reasonably work for our neighborhoods. The present legislation seemed like an okay compromise was reached. Are we going backwards, giving total control once again to private use of public space? In 1421, year-round outdoor dining would once again increase trash, prevent cleaning of streets, and bring back many other issues which are somewhat under control now. And many sheds are unoccupied in the cold weather, and they become shelters for homeless. Allowing restaurants to occupy more than their frontage and allowing grocery stores to occupy sidewalk space in front of their business is just being greedy. This space is necessary for pedestrians, deliveries, and other needs, especially on our narrow streets. As it is, pedestrians are sometimes forced to walk in the street, which is extremely dangerous due to bikes, Ubers, deliveries, trucks, and other vehicles. When did pedestrians get put to the bottom of the list? 1444, reducing the pedestrian clear path to just 8 feet would create impossible quality of life issues on our narrow streets. Pedestrians, residents, people with disabilities using wheelchairs, canes, parents, babysitters with strollers, dog walkers, and tourists should be respected and considered. Patrons of restaurants on our narrow streets block the sidewalks and the clear path before and after their meals, and they create noise for everyone in the neighborhood. And if there is a shed as well, then sidewalk is virtually blocked.
Thank you for your testimony. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
My name is Rachel. I'm speaking in
Rachel, we're
favor of
having
both
trouble.
measures to expand out.
Rachel? Oh,
Yes.
we were having trouble hearing you. If you want to just restart.
Start over? Great. My name is Rachel Wilson. I'm speaking in favor of both measures to expand outdoor dining. A few years ago, as a health contracted a common virus that left me immunocompromised. That means that when I want to spend time in the world, grab a drink with friends, take a new coworker out to lunch, or participate in the social work of our city, I rely entirely on outdoor dining because it's the only way I can reliably avoid airborne illnesses. If you've never had to think about this, you likely don't know how hard it is to socialize in these circumstances. A lot of outdoor dining is partially enclosed or only has a couple of tables, and I can't just pop inside when that happens. As a result, I've had to miss my friends' goodbye drinks, birthday parties, casual networking opportunities, and so many other gatherings that people take for granted. I've bundled up and sat outside on very cold nights because I don't have another choice, and every year I watch more of these meager options vanish. Having more options available would remove a huge barrier. Being sick and having to be so cautious is deeply isolating, but being able to easily meet up with friends allows me to feel normal and like my old self again. More than 1 in 4 adults have a disability, so I'm not the only New Yorker who benefits from outdoor spaces to eat and drink. This is especially important at a time when flu and COVID vaccine uptake is low. COVID is not, in fact, over, and I pray that none of you who believe that learn that the hard way. And loneliness is very high. Far from being an ADA violation, open streets are a form of accessibility and help healthy New Yorkers stay healthy both physically and mentally. When we curtail roadside dining, we're saying that 2 parked cars are more important than the health of all New Yorkers. I hope that City Council will support these bills because we all deserve to participate in public life in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have on Zoom Sean Sweeney, Ned Shalansky, and Lef Arnson.
You are unmuted, Sean.
Am I? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, hi. My name is Sean Sweeney. I'm the director of the Soho Alliance, a volunteer community group in Soho. I'm also the on the executive. I'm also past twice president of the Downtown Independent Democrats, for whom I'm not speaking. But I got to know politicians in the 30 years I've been in that club. And I wonder, why do politicians, why are they given such a bad name? I hear things like hypocrites. Well, I've seen, I watched the beginning of this hearing, and there was Lincoln Ressler saying there was a groundswell of requests for these. Actually, if you look in the comment sections of publications as diverse as the New York Post and the New York Times, 90% of the comments were against these rat traps, as they call them. And why do I say some politicians might be hypocritical? Well, Mr. Ressler, how many of these outdoor sheds are on your tree-lined block in Brooklyn Heights? I'll tell the audience, none. And Julie, I always thought you were a community advocate. The community doesn't want this. And again, I know I'm not going to reveal what block you're on, but you have a very beautiful park across the street from you, and not for blocks and blocks and blocks have you one of these on your block. The same with Keith Powers. It must be very nice up there in Cooper Village, Stuyvesant Town. How many do you have in your block? There's none on my block. There's very few in Soho. I just have something called compassion, which I see lacking in the people who are pushing these bills. This is why we get a bad reputation, folks. This is why. If you have any heart, do you want to hear people yelling and screaming underneath your windows? No, I bet you don't. Do you want to see rats like I've seen scurrying about? I bet you don't.
Thank you for your testimony. Your time has expired.
Really. Don't make a mockery of politics.
Ned, I'm unmuting you. Ned, are you on? Ned is not responding.
Leaf? Is Leaf on the Zoom?
Leaf, I'm unmuting you.
Okay. Thank you. My first question in my testimony is this: why are we here? I live on Cornelia Street in the Village, and it's 100% R6, R7 zone, with 7 small restaurants on a single block. All the adjacent streets, sidewalks, and roads are narrow. Tourists flock here daily to see, these old world walk-ups and everyday people coexisting with, global trade skyscrapers. But those people don't live here. We do. I witnessed the conditions that overwhelmed our neighborhood when restaurants stayed to operate long after the COVID catastrophe. We found ourselves immersed in a years-long fight with this industry to regain reasonable quality of life norms. After 3 lawsuits fighting 4 years of industry lobbying, the city emerged with a compromise, an outdoor dining program with rules that included important review processes, rules that were touted as protecting residents and public use in the long term. Hailed time and again as an important compromise, the industry vowed to follow the new rules of their own design. Now, 5 years later, with only 1 year of operating the permanent program under the new rules, the industry now circles back with a fresh campaign to pressure lawmakers and public perception to roll back important community engagement and controls. These bills are a fresh attack on residents' rights, public review, community board voice, against City Council's ability to monitor and manage constituents' concerns, and undermines this very City Council's reason to exist as a governing lawmaking body, doing the work of enacting equitable urban policy that protects taxpayers from unfair, inequitable commercial use of our public space. Knowing what we all know now, it's outrageous that we must now contemplate reversing critical rules for the sole benefit of this industry. It's further upsetting to see City Council members intent on crafting amnesic bills on behalf of paid lobbyists that seek to remove the very guardrails that were a critical element.
Thank you for your
of safety and
testimony. Your
promise
time has
to
expired.
a wary and weary but adamantly opposed public green to allow this industry a permanent program in the first place.
Thank you very much. And our next panel is Valerie Mason and Laura Tenenbaum.
Valerie, you may begin.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see the chairs of the committee. I saw you at the speaker roundtable the other night. I'm Valerie Mason, and I'm the chair of Manhattan Community Board 8. We are opposed to these bills. I want to take issue with something that Councilmember Ressler said. He asked the DOT about a survey of restaurants. I don't recall receiving a survey from Councilmember Ressler asking any community boards what they feel about this legislation before it was put forth. We are on the ground. We see what's happening. We hear from pedestrians about the loss of sidewalk space. We have handled very many applications, just like CB2. So we are on the ground and we know what's happening. We are concerned about the expansion of the definition of retail food establishment. One of the things that we consider when we look at applications is how many restrooms there are available. If you were to include grocery stores and other establishments, we don't understand how the public would have use of a bathroom, and we think that should be thought about. One of the things that we find lacking in these bills is something that was lacking in the original bill, which was to give community boards the time to actually review these applications at the get-go. The 40-day notice from the time you receive it doesn't coincide with many of our community board schedules, and we would ask that the city council go back and take a look at that. One of the other things on a maximum clearance, again, and I think this has been said by many of the speakers today, from the public at least, one size does not fit all here. Sidewalk space is precious. If you happen to have a huge sidewalk, I don't know why we would permit a private establishment to take more square footage away from pedestrians, and we just don't understand what the rationale behind any of this is. One thing we have heard loud and clear from
Thank
our
you for your
residents,
testimony. Your time has
if I may
expired.
just finish my sentence, is that not having outdoor dining year-round has resulted in many fewer rats running around their neighborhood. Thank you.
Dad, I'm going to try and unmute you again. Not responding.
Am I on? Am I on now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I got involved in something else. My name is Laura Tenenbaum. I live in a neighborhood where Chinatown, Little Italy, and Soho meet in Community Board 2 Manhattan. The Dining Out New York City program is only a year old. It's too early to fiddle with it, giving even more power over our public spaces to a single industry and less to the whole community. It's clear that a balance between the needs of the eating and drinking industry and the needs of residents is paramount for our city to be livable. Noise and space are vital quality of life issues in our city. During COVID, open restaurants was a disaster for many residents in my community, even though I am aware that it was a lifeline for many. But in my community, people lost sleep, had to sidle between tables on the sidewalk or take to a roadway, couldn't even see across the street to wave to friends due to roadway dining. Dining Out NYC fixed a lot of that, particularly by expanding the pedestrian clear path so families could walk side by side again, so people using canes didn't have to walk on subway grading, which unfortunately is within the pedestrian clear path. It gave wintertime respite to roadbed obstruction, which is also environmentally smart because heaters require energy. If you're going to make any change, please make it safer for pedestrians. Impose daylighting at our corners and recognize roadway dining as obstructions to daylighting. at least in transit-rich areas like mine. By the way, this program did not take out much private car parking in my neighborhood because we really don't have much of that. What it did take out was the vistas. And in a tourist-rich environment like mine, that's a
Thank you for your
disaster.
testimony. Your time has expired.
Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you very much. So if we've inadvertently missed anyone who registered to testify today and is yet to be called, please speak with a sergeant, or if you remote, use the Zoom hand function and you'll be called in the order that your hand has been raised. I'm just going to call the additional names of remaining Zoom panelists who we called earlier, but oh geez, is he? Okay. I'll call all of them. Michelle Birnbaum, Michael Harachi, Scott Lynn, Robert Camacho, Chris Schuyler, Michelle Cuppersmith, Jessica Walker. If you hear your name called, if you could please begin your testimony.
Michelle Coopersmith is online. Michelle, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Kevin. My name is Michelle Coopersmith. I live on East Broadway and I live above 4 outdoor dining setups and I love it. To respond to previous testimony, it is compassionate to expand the outdoor dining program year-round for several reasons. As we heard earlier, there are people with invisible disabilities who suffer in a city that does not provide enough outdoor opportunities, and so often they are forgotten. I also want us to have compassion for the small business owners who are able to grow their businesses and pursue the American dream because of outdoor dining. And with the permanent program, they were unable to bear the unwieldy costs of storing and dismantling setups for non-year-round dining. So in fact, the current law benefits corporate restaurants and disadvantages the small business owners I'm sure a lot of people testifying against this bill claim to support. I also want us to be compassionate for the employees who lost their jobs due to the curtailing of the outdoor dining program, which is well documented. I'm a vocal advocate for outdoor dining, and I've said this over and over in the past 5 or 6 years that for those of us who don't have second homes and live in New York City full time, outdoor dining was a lifeline for us. It was a way to reintegrate into society, and it's the only good thing to come out of the pandemic, literally the only thing. So I ask the committee and the council to support Intro 1421 to make our city more equitable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We've called the additional names. Okay, well, we want to thank everyone for being here today for a very productive hearing. Thank you so much, and we will close the hearing.